Hello, and welcome to the Edge of Innovation Workshop YouTube channel. Today, we're going to bring George Kenner back. George is with the George Kenner channel on YouTube, and George and I are going to spend about an hour today talking about what we always talk about, of course. We're going to talk about lasers, the different kinds of lasers, kind of state of the art in the industry, what we've been doing with them, how you can use them to make money. We're going to talk about some woodworking projects, and we're going to also talk about 3D printing. Now, George has just gotten into 3D printing. I've been into it for many years, and they all kind of fit together. So sit back and relax, and I think we're going to be able to show you how we've used them. In our case, it's for hobby use. But, you know, if you're in this as a sideline business, a side gig, you can make a lot of money. And we're going to talk about ways that we've seen other people making money, how you can make money, and how they all kind of fit together. I mean, this is a set of sort of hobbies and industries that all just intertwine with one another. And it's a fascinating industry. It's fun. It's exciting. The things you can do with them are amazing. And if you just want to do it as a hobby, well, you know, that's okay too, because I'm telling you, I spend all of my free time making things for friends, doing things for people, and I have a blast with it. And we'll talk about it. I got a fiber optic laser about a month ago. I told George prior to going live on this that I've been running it 24 hours a day doing all kinds of stuff. And I can assure you when this stream ends, I'm going to be running it again and doing some more fun projects for friends and family and neighbors, and it's something that everybody can do. It's not technically that complicated. You can figure it out. So sit back, relax, give us 1 hour of your time. Hopefully we can show you how to have fun and make some money. Now, bear with me while I try to bring George in. Hopefully we've got him here. Let's see if we can get him live. And are you with me, George?
I'm here. How are you today, Bruce?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. How are things going?
Fantastic. I was able to put the feed into the Laser Freedom Facebook group, so
Great.
maybe we'll pick up some watchers here.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. If not, they can always watch it. You know, it gets recorded and they can watch it later. They can watch it either on the George Kenner channel or the Edge of Innovation channel, either one. So yeah, that's great. So as I mentioned in the pre-show, we're going to be talking about coins and flasks and engraving, and we're also going to be talking about 3D printers and what we use, also some woodworking topics. So give us some insight into what you've been doing. I sort of mentioned a few things
Well,
that I've been doing.
I really like the in your first lower thirds where it says politics can be your best moneymaker. Absolutely true. You know,
Yeah.
all those things that we're not supposed to talk about, politics, religion, off-color humor, all of those are big money makers. Now, I ran a poll in Laser Freedom, my Facebook group, and I said, who would print, something along this line? Well, the half of the people were, I wouldn't do it. Well, I'm thinking, you're discriminating against, a huge, huge moneymaker. If
Yes.
you don't have to adopt the philosophy. All you have to do is offer the product on both sides, and
Yes.
that shows neutrality and literally put them in the same ad. But
Yes.
it's a huge moneymaker. The one where Donald Trump, that coin that where after he got shot in the air, he's pumping his fist in the air. That's a
Yes.
$25 coin all day long to the right audience. It
Hey, I agree. I agree.
you
And you know, I'm
know,
sure there's Kamala people that want coins and things to support their side as well. So
Oh, exactly. It's, to not be able to be participatory in something like that is just a distraction from the ability to be an American capitalist and make some money on something. I
I agree.
I did
I agree.
one that's a little bit of off-color humor, and it's a glass. I've done it on glass, flasks. I've done all kinds of things, but it says there's a man golfing engraved, and below it, it says, "I lost my balls in Yuma." Well, it could be in any city. Now, yeah, it's a little bit off color humor, but especially to an old guy golfer, that's worth $10 to him all day long just to be able to have it as a joke.
I agree. I'm going to
So
bring up oh, sorry to interrupt. I'm going to bring up one of the cameras here that is zoomed in on some of my work, and I have people begging
sure.
me for these. I had people offer to buy the file. So let's zoom in here, and I'll show you something else here in a second. And obviously, some of these are politically related, some aren't. But if we look, oops, if I can get the camera right. If you see this one right here, this was one that I did for a class reunion, the one that says PHS 74, and it's got a football on the other side. I had people begging me. I made 50 of these. My fiber laser ran 24 hours a day for weeks, and I didn't get enough made. And after the reunion was over, people wanted more of those, and I had to go make some more. These are just things that I've done, and the eagle that you see there, it came off the laser this morning, and it was just a practice one. And then the next one, I actually had people wanting to buy these files right here, the ones that say Trump. I had a guy offer me $50, and he said, "I'll give you $50 for that file." And I said, "Well, I appreciate that, but I'll just send it to you for free. I don't. I'm not going to charge you for it." So yeah, I mean, there's money in this, and
Hmm.
you're right. Those coins, I guarantee you, and the one on the left there that you see, that's actually the size of a $50. The one on the right's the size of a quarter.
Hmm.
So trust me, you can get more than a $50 and more than a quarter. And I won't bore you with this for very long, but I told George I got the neatest thing that I got to show because George hasn't seen this. My brother sent this for my birthday. So I'm going to zoom out, and he sort of saw part of it when I started this. And let me move the camera around. And there is also a bit of a laser factor here as well.
Is that a
That right,
V8 motor?
that, sir, is a V12 working V12 replica of a Ferrari engine.
How cool.
Now, I don't have it running yet. I actually burned up the starter, and I've got a replacement starter motor, but it's fuel injected V12 Ferrari engine. And the laser part of this is you see the V12 on there, and you see the name on the cover on the top. That's
Yeah.
all done with a fiber laser. That was how that was done. Now, I don't know what my brother paid for this. I have no idea. I know it wasn't cheap, but if this is just one example of what you could do with a fiber laser, I can only imagine what they paid to get that done. Those valve covers and well, it'd be the carburetor cover, the intake cover. But
Hmm.
yeah, that was done with a fiber laser. So anyway, that's my newest toy, along with I've got a lot of other toys. So yeah, it's been fun.
That's very
So
cool. I
yeah,
I have some friends that are in car clubs,
yeah,
and the one of them has a old, I'm going to say probably 36 Plymouth or something like that. And it's not really a lowrider, but it's a lowrider type car. So he belongs to a lowrider car club. I did one
hmm,
that says I did a flask that says all my friends are the lowrider, and then put his car club logo on the back. He is
right.
in, he's in heaven. I did another one because his wife also has a car. This is their hobby. It's what they do now. They're retired. And I put Lady Lowriders with roses all over one. I bet you if I make these and I give them away, I try and keep them, one or twosies, and they're like, "Can I order 75 of them?"
I
Yeah.
know. It's crazy. I couldn't
Hmm.
believe the number of people that wanted the Trump quarters. And I don't have a picture. I didn't have time to get it ready, but have a very good friend that's done a lot of things for me. And I did actually, I may be able to show part of it. I had a friend that I did some gun grips. He's a big gun collector, and so I made some brass. These are actually stainless steel, and I haven't engraved them yet. I'm going to do these as well. But I did some gun grips for him that I sent to him that turned out really nice. Again, using the fiber laser, and he was just beside himself, happy. And he said, "You know what these would sell for at the gun show if somebody were have these custom made, custom done, because it had his name in it, and it said Defender of the Faith, Protector of the Constitution." And he said, "This is a $500 set of grips. If I went to the gun show and had one of those guys actually custom make these for my gun." And I got to tell you, I bought the grips from a guy in England. They're already pre-cut brass. I stuck them in the laser and designed a file for it. It took about 4 hours on the laser to run both of the grips. I think I paid $35 for the brass grips, and I had 4 hours of laser time. And if that's a $500 job, George, there's a lot of profit in that.
Yeah,
there's a lot of profit.
We're rather, I know that we're rather unique in the approach that we take to doing this, because we're not trying to sell the items. I would just be more pleased that somebody get off the couch and go do something.
Exactly.
I have a friend that he's confined to a wheelchair, and he's in pain all the time. Well, I just got him into 3D printing. I think I even sent you a photo of something that he's done, but he's into 3D printing. Can't get him away from the 3D printer. He sits there. He loves it. He's talking, "I'm going to make me a print farm. I'm going into business with this." And, producing something is a very valuable, human area of satisfaction. Sitting around at the end of the day and not having anything physical for what you've done is, not always beneficial to, I'll call it, the human soul.
I agree.
So if I can encourage anybody to go out and do something, it's I'm probably sounding like a broken record with, go into Laser Freedom Facebook group. You're allowed to say anything you want to, as long as you ain't posting, dirty pictures or swearing. All I care about is that, the person get the right tool for the job, and then show us some of the things that he's done.
Because, I agree.
I'm just like you said, I just started with 3D printing, and I've done some pretty amazing things and jumped into Fusion 360 and started to make things there.
Yeah, absolutely. I besides running my lasers almost 24 hours a day, I run my 3D printer. It just runs constantly. I buy the filament, which is the plastic that they use. I buy that 5 kilograms, which is 11 something pounds at a time, because I go through so much of it. And I'm constantly making things. I make things for the shop. I make things for friends. I make things for the laser. I mean, I made a rotary coin device that you put in the rotary, and I think I mentioned, making all those coins, and it would make a coin, and it would spin around and make another one and spin around and make another one, and it would do 8 at a time, and it ran all night long. And it's sort of a little automated factory, but I did that with my 3D printer. I made the little jig that it used to make those. So while I was sleeping, I mean, if I were selling these, it would be making money. But 3D printing and lasers, they all go together. There's a lot of money in this. Some of these people have not only dozens, but there are people out there with hundreds of 3D printers making stuff that, I mean, you can't imagine that it's hard to believe it would sell, but they're doing it. They're selling it on Etsy. They're selling it on eBay. They're selling it on Amazon. It is shocking how much.
Let's talk a minute. I spent about $1,500 on my 3D printer, and I got the Bamboo Labs X1 Carbon with the automatic color changer. I went full bore, but
yes,
they make another machine that's only a couple $100. So and it runs on the same slicer. Why don't you
Yes.
explain to us what a slicer is? Because that's a term that people hear out there, kind of scary.
Yeah, let's talk about that. A slicer, let's kind of back up even before that. If you're going to make something, you have to well, you don't have to design it. There are a lot of websites that you can go to and find things that people have already made. I was looking here to see if I had anything that maybe somebody else had made, but I don't have anything in front of me. But you can go out to these websites. They're free, all kinds of things. I mean, things that you just wouldn't think of. But there's a ton of things that you can buy that people have already put the time and effort into making, and you can print those on your 3D printer. Now, if you don't want to do that, you have to use some software. Um, in most cases, yeah, there you go. Yeah, there. I mean, there's something that I think you found that online and just printed it off. Pretty neat, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I got a kind of little secret project going with these,
Oh, you
and
know what? I do have something. It's sitting right here beside me. I have for my fiber laser, I have 5 lenses. And this is a lens holder. Now, this is 3D plastic, 3D printed plastic, and it holds 2, and they fit in here very nicely. That makes a nice place to hold them. I could have designed this in about, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, but somebody had already done it. I just grabbed it off a website, went in and printed on the printer. So, you don't have to be able to know how to do it if you want to get into 3D printing. But if you do, back to the slicer issue, most people are probably using something called Fusion 360. And I believe, and George can correct me on this, but it's free. If all you're going to do is 3D print, it's a free program, I believe. I don't think you have to pay for it.
there
Now, in
is a
my
free
case,
version.
yeah, in my case, I do pay for it because I also use the same software to run a big CNC milling machine that's over in the next room over here. So once you have it designed, or once you get the file from one of these websites, you need a slicer to slice it up. And what that does, it divides the object into thousands of slices. And that's going to come with your printer more than likely. I mean, I think in all cases, it's going to come with one that's already set up for you. Now, in my case, I use something from a company called Creality, which when I bought it was sort of state of the art. Um, and it's the big K1 Max. It's big. It doesn't do multiple colors like George's, but it works okay. It is not the latest greatest thing. What George has, the bamboo. If you're going to buy a printer, go with bamboo. I mean, the print quality is fantastic, but it's going to come with its own slicer, and that divides that up. And so you take the output from that, you put it on a thumb drive, or you can send it to the printer. There's a lot of ways to get it there. And you take it in the printer. In my case, it goes on a thumb drive. I plug it in, hit the button, and it starts printing. And I have prints that run sometimes 24 hours to complete one. Some big pieces of plastic. I mean, I've done all kinds of things, but a lot of times it'll complete something in a matter of just an hour. The new printers are really fast. The quality is amazing. And in the slicer, you're going to tell it what kind of material you're using, whether it's like ABS plastic or what's called PETG, which is a type of plastic that has fiberglass mixed in it that makes it stronger. Uh, TPU, which is a type of plastic that is flexible. It's like a rubber. And I printed some cup holders for my Tervis tumblers that are in the house that they're flexible, and the tumbler goes in it, it kind of grips it. So there's all kinds of plastics that you can get. I did some polycarbonate recently, which is very difficult to print, and it has to go slow, but it's really, really tough. You can actually make tools out of it. I've seen people who actually make tools that you would use in your garage or workshop, and it's tough enough that it will withstand a lot of abuse. So the slicer is sort of the key to it, and they're very simple. There's not much to it. You take the file that you got online or that you produced in Fusion, and there are a few other programs that people use, but Fusion is by far and away the most popular. It's made by Autodesk, Fusion 360. And you put it in the slicer, it slices it up, you go and put it in the printer, and it's not that hard. If you can run your laptop, you're going to be able to figure this out. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not that hard.
with these, Bruce, the problem that I had was it was one hand. And I wanted two hands, and I wanted it to be held as though it was two hands. If I put the two hands on the project, I would have had two right hands.
Yeah.
So I put in Laser Freedom, what do I do? And I think it was you that came in, you and a couple other people that said there's a mirror option. Now
Right.
I have it properly done. Now
Yeah.
I didn't know that that option was there, but it's not only absolutely there, it was very simple. I even
Hmm.
went to a site called Thingiverse and printed these down. I scaled this one up to be
One of my
human.
favorites. Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Thingiverse. I was just looking through interesting things to print, and I saw this. I was like, "That's really cool." So I'm going to get one of those. It also in the system, it will allow you to change this. If I wanted to make it 1 inch tall,
Yes.
not a problem. There's
Yes.
my buddy next door. They got the slicer. And I think there were 3 or 4 people that just based upon the comments in my Facebook group bought these because they went down in price. They have like the
Hmm.
Black Friday sale is $250 off. They were like, I'm not going to let the opportunity go. Why they're on sale, I'm going to get one. Well, the one one of the people that is actually in my group, but here in the neighborhood, he saw that I had gone and got some DeWalt battery holders, and I got it off Thingiverse. I printed 6
Hmm.
of them in different colors so I can even key code when my batteries are charged. I didn't even have to design it.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
went, like you said, I needed a battery holder for some of the lights that I use when
Hmm.
I'm doing video work. Right there. I mean, I think this took about 3.5 hours to print, and it's rugged, it's sturdy.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Either you could go find it. If it's not there, you could build it yourself. Now,
Yes.
Fusion 360, I'll tell everybody out there, it's like going to a college engineering class.
It is. It
If you
is.
like a puzzle, you're really going to love this. As a matter of fact, I have a 4 series Fusion class that an engineer gave me a consultation. And what I found with the program was I couldn't understand exactly why they designed the things the way they did. You can go get the point and click, but you don't get the background of why the engineers did it the way they did it. And I have no engineering background. So
Yeah.
that's going to be coming up. I have the rough footage. I just have to get it all posted. The first one's done. So
Yeah. Fusion's one of those programs that there's nobody in my belief in the world that knows everything there is to know about Fusion. It is probably the most comprehensive piece of software that I've ever seen in my life. You will never learn all of it, but the good news is you only need to learn a little of it. If you can learn how to use about 40 or 50 commands and get to know them well, that's all you need. I can muddle my way through almost anything in Fusion now, but I've been at it a while, but it's not that difficult. I just happened to realize sitting over here that I use, I don't know if I can get it on the camera or not. I was going to design this. Now, this little device right here, this is what's called a companion. And I can actually click this and it will switch cameras automatically. There's a different camera angle and it goes back and forth. And I can make it bring up things like this. So I can do all kinds of things with it. But this was printed. I didn't design it. I started to. I was going to design this with Fusion, and I went to Thingiverse. And I thought, maybe somebody else has done this before. And lo and behold, somebody had designed the perfect thing to hold not only the small companion but the big one. I'd print them off, and yes, I didn't have to do anything other than just print it. So it's a lot of fun. It's kind of amazing what you can do with your 3D printer.
before we go to the to another topic, I want to share. We had done a couple of these, and my next door neighbor, he had taken, and there were little supports. Well, because you can't print out in air, so he had done
Mhm.
what was called the tree method to
Right.
support it, and the trees have to be broken off. Well, he left little white fibrous
Hmm.
extensions that kind of discolored it. He's like, oh no, man, what am I going to do with that?
Yeah.
He took a little bit of sandpaper to it and he thought, okay, I'm going to sand it off. Actually made it whiter.
Yeah.
And I am trying to get him to stop, but he's a cigarette smoker. I grabbed his lighter. I went like this and disappeared. So if you're looking
Yeah.
for a quick tip, heat and a little bit of the plastic for those white marks, it absolutely disappears instantly.
Yeah. You can
So
also use a soldering iron too sometimes, and get the not the tip of it, although you can use the tip, but right before the tip on a soldering iron that gets really hot, and you can kind of iron it with that, and that's another way.
yeah,
One other trick that and this is again, I don't know where I picked this up, but from years of dealing with these 3D printers, acetone, and on a lot of plastics you can put a little acetone on it, and it will melt it and smooth it out. So that's another one.
mhm.
But I will tell you, talking about 3D printers, the microsecond that Bamboo releases a printer that prints a little larger than the one that George has got. George's is a roughly 250 millimeter cubed build volume. My Creality is a 300. I need the size, and the microsecond Creality really or Bamboo releases a bigger printer, I will be buying one. I've been trying to get them to send me one for review, but they're so busy, I think, building what they have, that I don't know if they're sending out review units. But George his is the one to beat. Creality has a very large new printer, and to be quite frank, if you buy a Creality, you're going to be it's not usually quite ready for prime time. And when I see the prints coming off of George's Bamboo versus what I'm getting out of a Creality, Bamboo's the way to go. I
Yeah.
mean, it really is.
This is standard settings that come out of the slicer. I literally just take the file, drag it in, put it on the platform, and I hit slice. I've changed
Yes.
none of the things. This does require supports to print. So there's one little box I hit. I wanted a tree support, and I also did it with what I will call the standard support, which looks like, what do you call it? Scaffolding. The
Yes.
scaffolding one didn't come out so good, so I tried it
Mm-hmm.
in tree, came out much better. But this is just standard. You can go in and change the density, which will give you a different weight. This is just
Yep.
standard. I'm big on plug and play. If
Mm-hmm.
you get a machine that is not ready to go, you'll end up frustrated. One of my friends that is an engineer, he got it and he started tweaking it. Next thing you know, he's taking it apart, he's messing with it. If you don't have the level of expertise,
Oh, did we lose you? I think we might have lost George. He not sure if he's still there or not. Yeah, if assuming the stream's still going, we'll see if we can get him back here. George, are you there? I put up on the bottom of the screen the name of the company, which is not spelled the traditional way. It's BAMBU, Bamboo Labs. So that's the one to look into. Let's see if we can get George back here in a minute. He probably will click back in a moment. Let's hope so. I'm not sure. That's the problem with live streaming. So while we're waiting on George, let's talk a little bit more about the printing aspect of this. I've been doing this for, oh gosh, I suppose maybe 7, 8, 9 years. It's a long time. That's a long time in the 3D printing world. I started out with a little printer that I'm not even sure it was called a Lulzbot. There he is back. Let's see if we can get him. Are you back, George?
I'm back.
Okay, we lost you for a minute. I was just telling him I put the name of the company up, Bamboo Labs. It's on the bottom of the screen down there. It's spelled a little differently. And I was explaining I've been in the 3D printing world for a long time, 7, 8, 9 years. And I started with a little printer called a Lulzbot. I'm not sure they're even still in existence. And I moved on to a couple of different Crealities, and those were you mostly tinkered with them more than you printed. And I have to say that when I did get the current printer, the K1 Max, and I got one of the very first ones, it was a game changer. But the Bamboo takes it one step further, and I'm heavily involved in this, and you will hear everyone out there saying that Bamboo is the one to beat. So if my recommendation, if you're going to buy one of these, just go buy a bamboo. You'll be much happier.
So
Um,
what should we talk about? Should we talk about some epoxy?
yeah, let's talk about. Let's see what's next on our list here. I've got us talking about woodworking too. Now that's something that you're an expert at. I don't do a lot of woodworking, but if you take lasers and 3D printers and woodworking, you tie them all together, there's ways to make money. And I know you've done a lot of epoxy work lately. Tell us all about it.
Well, the I ended up walking into a wood store in Phoenix and I saw a piece of wood, a great big slab, and had a crack running up the middle. I didn't know exactly what it was. I wasn't familiar with having seen the wood as it was presented. It was made out of Paduke, and Paduke is a
Mm-hmm.
wood they use a lot in sailboats for the bright work for the handles, grab handles, things like
Right.
that. It has a high oil content. It starts out and it's orange. Well, this was white, orange, crack, orange, white. And it had bug holes that had been eaten into the white sapwood. Well, I didn't, I'd work with Paduke, but I'd never seen a piece that big. Well, I ended up buying it. I filled the crack with black epoxy, and it's now a table sitting in my living room. It's probably worth several $1,000s.
Right. Right.
Not really that much work, but I got exposed to the epoxy. Then what I did was I found out, I had some experience. If you wanted to bring a chemical compound into a government facility, and I'd worked for the government, you had to have what was called the materials or the manufacturer safety data sheet. If anything would happen
Yeah.
with that chemical, you had to know the poison control center and all that. Well, what I did was I got the manufacturer safety data sheets that have to be provided by law. And I looked
Mm-hmm.
and I found out that all of these epoxies were not being made by the companies that were actually producing, or selling the epoxy. There's one great big company, and they're centered up in Michigan. They don't even have a chemist online. They want a lot more for their epoxy than anybody else does. So
Mm-hmm.
I put a video out and shared with everybody. You don't necessarily have to buy the most expensive epoxies. They're not even making it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, there was like why pay the marketing price? And there are a lot of people on
Right.
the internet that were selling it. I bet you they're getting $20 a gallon for every referral they got for people. Oh, this is the best epoxy. Well, I did a
Right.
video on that, and I bought an epoxy called Magic Resin. It was the least expensive that I could find. And I wanted to test it against the most expensive that I had bought. It worked absolutely perfectly. I have done multiple high-end tabletops that are all color layered, and
And
they're beautiful pieces of work. I've gone into a couple of the epoxy groups and told people I don't sell them, and they're going, with your level of skill and ability to see the pattern, why aren't you doing this?
and I think I've
So,
got. Let me see if I can pull up the video. I think I've got a video of your latest work. Let's see if we can get that
okay.
up. Oh, that's not it. Let's see. Let me find
Well,
it
that looks
here.
good. You made me hungry.
That's. I think that's your. Is that your latest work that we have up
Well,
there?
I have about 7 or 8 of those tabletops, and most of them are done that way, where that was another piece. Both of those were ironwood, Sonoran ironwood. That wood you could use as a steel hammer. It's that hard.
Wow.
So what I did was that's pre being finished. It looks about like that, but when it's done and the wood you plane it off, and the wood becomes more predominant. They're a beautiful piece of work. Well,
Yeah. Oh, obviously.
I I talked to the guy at Magic Resin. They ended up contacting me after seeing the video that I had done online, and they offered to send me some epoxy. Well, I'm doing a table right now that is made out of Palo Verde, which is Arizona's state wood. It is so bug eaten, but it's so beautiful and it's so hard. So my friend at Sonoran Woodworking, which is in Tacna, Arizona, he saw the beauty in it and actually kiln dried it to make sure everything is dead in the wood. And I've gone and filled that in with black and clear epoxy, and it is going to be a phenomenally beautiful piece.
Yeah, and
So
as you said, these are again, these are pieces that you would see in some specialty shop or these places. I mean, I see this sort of thing used. I go to a restaurant where they have used that epoxy and they made the neatest tabletops with them. Actually, I go to two restaurants where they've done that, but one of them has a 3D layered effect, and all they've done is it was I guess originally cut out of paper or something. I'm not sure how they did it. It's an older tabletop and probably done long before lasers, but if you had a CO2 laser, this would be pretty easy to do. And then they just filled it with epoxy, and there's no telling what they paid for those tabletops. I mean, it had to be in the thousands and thousands of dollars, but it's really neat. And
the
it's the kind of thing that somebody could do, and there's a lot of money in that.
I'm working on something right now. I did a poll in Laser Freedom, and I asked people why they would or would not start with epoxy. Well, with me, watching a bunch of YouTubes, everybody was all concerned about it leaking and the epoxy getting everywhere. Well, I just decided to make my own silicone molds for the tabletops. It cost me a little bit more money, but there was no leak. And when I did the first big table, I had leaks. They weren't severe, but I was getting epoxy on the floor and I'm down there wiping it up and cleaning it with alcohol. It was a pain. So I just made big silicone molds. What I'm working on right now, and this is just I'll probably buy the epoxy and give it away in Laser Freedom because you can buy small artisan. You can get started in epoxy for a matter of $20. It's not
Yeah.
really that expensive, but I'm going to 3D print a mold. I'm going to get some silicone and make the mold. All you have to do is pull it out, and what's in my mind to design, there'll be a center plug that'll remove. You can take the mold once you've taken it out and put it right back in. So it doesn't have to be a real thick mold. You'll have a
Right.
supportive wall. You can put your pieces in there, pour your epoxy, you're done. You're not going to have
Yes.
any leaks. I'll probably put the mold on Thingiverse, so anybody that wants to try it'd be easy. You just blew me up, and I saw this in my picture. This was a burl piece of also Palo Verde. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 3D, I'm going to take a 3D printer. I'm going to make a right angle square. I'm going to fill this in. I'll seal this off, and then I'm going to pour blue in here. This, I'll do basically the same thing, and I'll take and put like a little plastic fish in there and pour it in with a transparent but blue colored epoxy. It'll look like it's a little piece of an aquarium in wood. Now, what would that be worth? Well, it's not going to cost me probably $1.50 worth of plastic to seal these off and then pour the epoxy in. I probably end up with something that for the gloss that this will take, if I put a little stand on it, it's a $50 or $100 deal. I think I paid $10 for this piece of wood.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
the
No,
same thing
absolutely.
same
That's
thing with
yeah,
this.
very
This
different.
is this is a mesquite burl, and they cut into it right here as they were cutting into the tree. Well, I'll get this all polished up, and it is really hard and really dense. Yeah, uh, my friend again at Sonoran Hardwoods, which is in Tacna, Arizona. Tacna, Arizona is between Yuma and Phoenix. It's about 40 miles from me. All of the woods that they have are desert woods, so they're not urban woods. So they're only growing based upon the moisture that's in the desert. This stuff is hard, and the harder it is, the better a finish it'll take. But I'm just going to slice this right down the middle, and it's going to become a knife block. I got the knife for it and everything. It'll
Mhm.
be something else I'm going to do. I think I mentioned, I know you know, Bruce, I've got a new laser coming. Uh,
Yeah, I was going to give it.
and I've been doing everything in the shop to get prepared for that laser. I had to put in new electrical. I put in a 6-inch exhaust vent to it. I had to move some of my water filtration around so it would fit in the place because I've always had I like to keep my cars in really good condition and I put them away at night. I'm in a 2-car garage. I have all these tools and I still put my car in the garage every night. So I put everything on wheels. Every piece of my garage, every square inch has a use, and I want it to be somewhat attractive too. I'm out there working. I don't want to. I believe that the environment that you're in is relative to the product that you produce. So
Yeah, no, I agree, and I know I know George probably doesn't want to toot his own horn, but he's got and I never know how to pronounce this, whether it's Aeon or Eon. I hear it both ways. He's got a state of the art. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but very expensive laser that's coming, and it's coming in what in about I think it's already in the United States. It's going to be here in a week or
technically,
two.
it's on the ground.
Yeah.
Eon has a trade show that they're doing in North Carolina. So they're picking up half of their staff and they go to the trade show. And as soon as they get back, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do a video. When the machines arrive, and different machines are different. Like they have one machine that half of the componentry is actually made in Melbourne. Their signature series, most expensive laser has an aircraft aluminum bar that's made in Melbourne, Florida. So they'll bring in, some of the componentry from China and then finish it. Well, whenever the machines arrive, what they'll do is they'll recalibrate them, set them up for light burn specific. They take every laser has its own basic footprint and measurement. They record all that and they put it into a database. So if I sold my laser and I went to somebody else, they would know specifically how that laser originally arrived, which could be important in the future servicing of the laser. So I'm going down, I'm going to go through the calibration process to show everybody exactly what it is. When I look at a product that I'm considering buying, I want to know as much about it as I can, especially as expensive as they can be. Mine, anybody that Eon prices all their machines online. You can go look it up. But I have a
Yeah.
Nova 10 Supernova coming. It has both an RF tube and a glass tube in it. So I'm going to be
Yeah,
able
and that
to do some engraving. I'm going to be able to do some photorealistic engraving on acrylic that I want to do. And that'll be one of the first videos. When I get it back here, it'll probably take me a week or so to figure it out. I've got some more traveling that I got to do right after it arrives, but I'm very excited. I'm very excited about it.
yeah. So what that to in case you don't if you're not familiar, yes, it has two types of lasers in it. You can use the CO2 laser, which has probably more cutting power and would be used maybe for cutting wood, things like that. And George's new machine is going to have an RF laser in it, which is the beam on that is very, very tiny. It's similar to the fiber laser that I've got here. And it produces a very tight beam, so you can do photorealistic things with it. You can engrave what would essentially be a picture. And I brought it up earlier. This is a one that I'm doing. Let me bring this up. This is an image that I'm getting ready to engrave on slate for my brother. It's a charcuterie board that it's going to go on a piece of black slate. I'm going to do it when this is over, when this live stream's over. I'll be doing that for him. And that's the kind of thing you can do with a fiber laser, or you could also do it with with an RF tube laser like George is getting. So that's the benefit of it. And George has got one other thing and I've got a picture of it here that he hasn't talked about. I'm always envious. It's always a fight to see which one of us has got the newest and best toys. And right now he's winning. Well, this can't happen. I've got to get more toys. I just do, which I haven't showed one. I'm gonna show it right now. See this little thing right here? That is a 3D scanner. I can scan things and make 3D models with it. It's not great. It may go back. I got it from Amazon. This is a pretty expensive little device, but I'm experimenting with it. So I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it or not. But anyway, George has got something else that makes me envious. That's if I had more room, I would have one in a second. And let's bring it up. It is a CNC wood router. There's a picture of it. So yeah, tell us about it, George.
Well, actually, I have two of those. It's a StepCraft.
Well,
It,
yeah.
a Stepcraft M1000. And I liked the machine so much that what I did was I got another one to take to my girlfriend's house, because sometimes I go spend some time with her and she likes the woodworking and everything. Well, she lives in a condominium, and somebody went by and they're like, that's an industrial machine, that's prohibited in the HOA rules. So it kind of turned into a discussion. And I was a very sophisticated California real estate broker, and we could probably beat the HOA. But you could spend $50,000 trying to beat the HOA, and it's just not worth the battle. So I brought that back to Yuma. Now I have two. I think I'm going to sell that one. It's a really good machine. I have somebody that's in, I have two people that are interested in it, but they're engineers. I started with that machine and I'll still have one of those machines, but it's equipped right there. It's probably about $8,000.
Yeah, I mean, you can do a lot of, and there again, it gets back to what we were talking about earlier. There's so much you can do with, with, I think I might have lost George again. I'm not sure. There he is. I brought him back.
Yeah.
We lost you for a second. Yeah, there's so much you can do with these, with something like that. I mean, let's get both of us back up here
Yeah.
again. Yeah, you can make all kinds of signs. I mean, they all fit hand in hand. So if you have one or two of these machines and it's in your garage, there's money to be made there. And we see it because of our YouTube channels and our Georgia's got a big Facebook groups. These people coming in, and it's shocking how much money some of these people are making out of their garage.
Yeah, Bruce, uh, I don't want to come off as I'm two old guys that are, we've got all the money in the world to buy all these toys. When I retired, I decided I was going to buy a motorcycle, and COVID had hit, and I couldn't find the motorcycle I wanted, and I just wanted a little Yamaha. That thing was about the same price, and I figured, you know what? I won't fall off. I won't kill myself. And this lit me off. I spent more money than necessary. You can go out and get started with a CNC router for, a couple $1,000s. I just went overboard. And then I started with diode lasers, and that led to a CO2 laser, which led to an even more expensive. If you were to buy a laser right now, is an entry level laser, what would you buy?
Oh, I mean, you could buy a little diode laser. Those are selling for, I think they've got them well below $1,000 now. I mean, you can buy a really nice one for about $1,500. In fact, you can't see it. It's sitting right here next to me. I've got a diode laser, a 40 watt, that I don't use very often. And I think those are down to maybe $1,500. And you can do a lot with them. I mean, you can do wood engraving, you can do slate, you can do a lot of things. I mean,
So,
some metal, you can do metal.
so let's say that you want to do it commercially, and diode lasers are historically very slow. So if
Yes.
you jumped up to CO2, what would the first CO2 laser, you would buy to experiment with? K40,
What?
Monport, what would you buy?
No, no. Well, George and I both started kind of in the same manner. We both started with what was an X Tools P2. I think we both started kind of, well, we both had diode lasers before that, but when we sort of moved up in the chain of things, we both got a X Tools P2. Um, that's a hobby machine. They're kind of expensive. I mean, they work, and all the fanboys are gonna be mad because I say this, but if you're gonna use it seriously, you don't want to, you don't want that. My next laser moving up the line was an Omtech, OMTECH. I've got a 130 watt tube crammed into a small chassis, which they do make. They're not as popular as some of their others, but it works really well for me for space. They're not terribly expensive. I think a brand new one is probably, if you get a 100 watt, $3,500, maybe something like that. Maybe a little more, maybe 4,500 if you get all the options. Works great. I mean, that thing has run for hours on end, days on end. I've done all kinds of projects with it. And to be quite frank, after I got the fiber laser, I haven't used it much because I've been so busy with the fiber laser. But that, or and you can buy these fiber lasers. They're a little more expensive. You can buy a nice fiber laser now for $4,000 or $5,000. I think Eon is selling them for somewhere in that range for like a 50 watt fiber laser. And I see these guys that do a lot of gun engraving, which is huge money, huge money. These guys doing gun engraving, and that's a whole different field. You may need a federal firearms license. I mean, there's all kind of controversy about it. But like me, I was just doing the grips, so you don't need a firearms license for that. But they're making huge money, and some of them are making money just designing the files and selling to other people to do guns. So I've seen some stuff. We both have a guy that we're familiar with. His name is Robert Brand, and I call him the king of coins. And Robert does these incredible challenge coins, and he's selling the files. I think he probably does okay, and he's doing it all on either a 50 or 60 watt Chinese laser. And
Robert
today,
Brand is a talent.
oh
Anybody,
my
if
God,
he's in my Facebook group, he posts his stuff. He's the best. He's
he's the
good.
best.
He's
There
the
is
best.
no, well, there's one other guy, and I don't know him. I've never talked to him or had any
And I
interaction
know
with
who
him,
he
but
is. And as soon as I called Robert the best, I felt bad because
yeah,
they're
I
both
know.
equal talents.
His name is Ed, and I don't know his last name. I think we're talking about the
J
same
Mac.
guy, but yeah, well,
J
he's
Mac.
okay. There's three. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
also very good. Yeah, there's another guy, Ed something, that I run into sometimes on the YouTube and Facebook groups, mainly the Facebook groups. I think I see him there, but he's very talented. But yeah, so yeah, boys and their toys. I mean, we're always there's always something new at the George Kenner channel, at the Edge of Innovation
Yeah.
Workshop channel. Um, I think we're both so busy playing with toys and new projects that we don't have enough time to really do these YouTube videos. I mean, that's why we do these live streams, because they're easier than actually videoing it and sitting down and spending hours editing these things. So
My goal,
hopefully
Bruce,
somebody
has
enjoys it.
been to get my shop completed so that all I have to do is go from project to project to project. About 7, 8 months ago, when I went to the International Sign Association show, I decided that I was going to jump in and buy the Supernova. I wanted
Mhm.
both of them. I was ready for a little bigger machine. I started with the Mira 7 in CO2. I do have a P2. Xtool sent it to me for review. I didn't pay for that machine. I'm going to sell it. Um, it doesn't run on a light burn and everything. I'm one of those, if you're gonna, these are all software driven. I want to stay with one software. I don't want to
Yeah.
deal with 5 or 6, different things, 5 or 6 different programs. But if I were going to buy another machine right now, if I was going to change the cycle that I went through, I would probably look at the Eon Mira 5, because the
Mhm.
red line has all the same characteristics of the instant lens removal, the the ability to go in and change each one of the mirrors. It's kind of, I'll use a simple way to explain the engineering is, if you can take a medicine cap off, you can take the mirror out and put it back in without adjusting it. You even have the ability to remove the laser tube in the event of replacement and lock it right back into a docking port. All of those same things that are in the most expensive machine that I'm getting are also in the Mira 5, and it runs at about the same price as one of the P2s. But it is a commercial grade machine. And when I was at the International Sign Association show, people were buying them that were already, they're established engravers running businesses, and they bought it just to do tumblers on, because they wanted to be able to set up the machine and leave it set up. Because every time you have to
Mhm.
go in and tweak your machine, get it reset up, it takes time. It's just like with the
Yes.
lens. People would come up, and to take the lens out, you don't even need a screwdriver. It's magnetically held in place. you can just grab it and pull it right out. There's even a sensor, a heat sensor, that'll tell you when your lens is dirty. All of those things mean something to the commercial engraver because they're paying somebody to do that work. You don't want your machine down for a half an hour while they clean the lens. And get it out, clean it, put it back in. You drop one of the little screws, it goes down into the bed. You got to find it. I've been through all that. I'd much rather go and pull it out and put it back in. As soon as I saw some of those features, it's like, okay, I can't see a whole lot of more innovations. Not that this industry isn't constantly innovating, but I figured I'm going to do that, and I wanted to do some photorealistic engraving for people. If you were to look at the marketplace for it, if let's say your pet dies, and you want to picture your pet, and you want it backlit with light coming up through it. I mean, you give me a picture, I can hook you up. But and it's the type of thing. The pet market is giant. People will spend more money on Fido than they will their own kid. It's really kind of funny. So if you're looking at it, how am I going to make money with this? You can you can look at some of the other things and look at the things that some people won't do, like political. You could set up a little Etsy store and make it, no one even knows who you are. You could be Joe's engraving and then Phil's engraving at the same time. Nobody's going to know. It's you setting up your business model and selling something legal and ethical. You can do whatever you want to do.
Right.
In my opinion.
It is shocking. I bought files off of Etsy before, and if you're a little bit talented, you're going to need the laser or whatever it is, the CNC router or the 3D printer to experiment with. But if you're a little bit artistic, I see these people selling these files on Etsy, and you can see how many they're selling, how much interest there is. It is shocking. I mean, I bought a file the other day that I don't know if actually I've got it here. This is not a real gun, first of all. This is actually just a very nice replica of it's a pellet gun, but it's a gun that I wanted to maybe eventually engrave for a friend, and it's an exact replica, and it's just a pellet gun. So I bought this because I didn't want to take $1,000 real gun and screw it up. So I'm going to use the fiber laser and engrave this. But I didn't want to take the time to design the file. So I went on Etsy and bought some design files that perfectly fit that. And all I've got to do is just laser it on there. And I saw how many of these things, and how much interest there was in this guy's files. And I think he was in India. He's got to be making a fortune. I think I paid $30 for the files for that just because I didn't want to take the time to do it myself. And he's selling these, I think, by the hundreds and lots of them. And he's just artistic. I mean, he's not actually in India, I'm sure, engraving them on guns. He's just doing the files. So there's all kinds of ways to make money with these businesses.
Yeah. Somebody out there, especially if you're into fiber lasers have more controls. I'll call it moving buttons that you have to adjust. Robert Brandt and my group will sell you not only the pattern, but the file. So you can go in and see how somebody else did that, and it cuts your learning curve tremendously.
Right.
And then, every laser is going to perform slightly different, but you get the basics. So if you're thinking about doing coins, go buy a pattern from Robert, and he'll give you, it's kind of like when all of this started and the fiber lasers were getting going, most of the guys are pretty quiet about that.
They don't tell their secrets.
You figure it out. And now it's changed. I mean, this happens with each one of the lasers. There's the guys that they'll spend the time trying to figure it all out because that's part of either their business or their hobby. And then after that, the information becomes pretty out there. As a matter of fact, I even asked ChatGPT for some suggested settings to do something, and it worked. It
It
works.
works.
Well,
Sometimes it works. Not
yeah.
always, but sometimes.
Well, I mean,
I
it gave me the basics. And, again, you're going to have
Yes.
to tune every laser to get, the exact benefit that you want. But,
Yeah.
once you get set up, you save that file, and all you have to do is reset up your piece.
One of the things that I've been doing, I'm going to zoom into me. These are stainless steel blanks, and I doubt you can see it, but they have colors on them. And one of the things that a fiber laser can do is engrave in color. And you just have to experiment. I have probably hundreds of these laying around trying to determine how to get the color out of the fiber laser. And some of the guys will give you some settings. I've got some that I got off of a Facebook group last night that I'm going to try again later this afternoon. But even if if somebody gives you the settings, you still have to do a lot of experimenting. So, I've burned it through so many of these trying to get colors. I don't think you can probably see it on the camera. I'm not sure if you will be able to or not, but this one has actually reds and blues, and you can do a lot of neat things. So that's been one of my recent tasks, is to determine what colors I can get out of my my fiber laser. And as I said, it could be hundreds of these little blanks that I've tested with. So it's a lot.
Well, Bruce, looking at the ticker up at the top, we've been going at it for an hour and a minute. We probably ought to
I
let these
know.
people.
We
God probably let
probably
these
bored most.
people go.
We probably bored most of them to tears. So I guess we better sign off.
Hey, I wish you the best. Um, I'm dying to come down. I'm in Arizona and San Diego, and I'm going back and forth to Florida more than I thought I would. So soon I'm going to come and visit you. I'm going to be knocking at your door. We're going to do a live together.
Anytime, anytime. I put you here in the studio, and God, I'd have to clean up. I've seen your shop, and it is so clean and neat. And as I told George prior to going live here, I said, I've got the cameras really tight because I would not want you to see the mess I've gotten here. I got to take a day off and clean up. That's
Well,
all there is to it.
that I have such limited space. If I do it any other way, it's just not going to work.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I had it pretty messed up out there trying to get all the little projects together. I only need one more thing, which is a sled for my table saw. And
yeah,
I don't I don't want to spend the time to make it, but I want a good one. I saw
yeah.
one made out of plexiglass, and I'm thinking, I've made a lot of tools. That's one of the things that I really enjoy doing, is making the tool or the jig for the job that I want to do. Yeah, show your coin jig. Look at that.
Yeah, as I said,
That's
I've
a
got a
money
big,
maker right there. If you could sell that.
yeah, well, I could. I mean, I've got a big CNC milling machine, and this will hold, camera focuses here in a minute. This will actually hold 3 different sizes of coins. You can do a 32 millimeter, it will hold a 40 and a 50 millimeter. On the back side, it's got a boss here that goes into the chuck, and this one does 4 at a time. So it'll do a coin, which takes, depending on the design, it can take 2-3 hours to do one side. It will then index to the next one. It'll index to the next spot, laser that, do it again. So I let it run overnight and produce these coins. There's one there that was a test one. So yeah, that was done with my. I've got a big Haas CNC milling machine that I should be using more, and
Yeah,
it takes up a lot of room in my shop.
that is, you could probably trade that to some of these coin guys for a few patterns, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, this is great. I mean, I first did it out of plastic with a 3D printer, just as a test. And what I found out is if I use the really good brass for the coins, it gets so hot that it can melt the plastic. So I did it out of aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
And and this was done with Fusion. Once you've got it done, I could easily turn this into one that does 6 coins or 8 coins, or you know, whatever I would like it to be. I mean, the initial design, once it's done, it's pretty easy to change it. So anyway, yeah, we're well over an hour, so we better sign off and call it good.
I wish you the best. We did have one comment up here. It says, we have a Mira 5 red line on order. It's supposed to be at the warehouse going through the machine checkout process right now. That's from Ken
Great.
Howard. It's I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one.
Okay.
and he's a pro. I know Ken Howard. He knows what he's doing. Okay, I
Well,
wish you the best.
all
We got
right.
to do another one of these soon.
We'll do another one soon. Until next time, for the Edge of Innovation Workshop channel on YouTube and the George Kenner channel, thank you. Have a great day and get off your can and get out there and do something in the show.